Hello, my name is John Shook, and I'm a trial attorney from Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about closing arguments. Closing arguments are important. They're the last of the 3 times you'll have an opportunity to talk directly to your jury. It's the time you can give your jury the will, the way, and the why to vote for your client, and to give the jurors that are on your side the tools they'll need to argue with the other jurors back in the jury room when they really decide the case. So, let's talk about how to prepare for, how best to present, and exactly what you should say in your closing argument. Preparation for closing argument begins well before trial. Consider creating what I call a swipe file, a file where you can store those types of quotes, video clips, things, little stories, things that you might want to use to spice up your closing argument. Things that you don't want to look for when you're in the middle of trial and time is short. Consider drafting your closing argument well before trial. If you draft a closing argument that you could use if everything went your way at trial, which it will not, it will give you a guiding light, a star to shoot for that you can use to tailor the testimony that comes into your case. Obviously, when things change at trial, evidence comes in that you don't expect, you'll want to account for it in your closing argument. But by creating a draft closing argument well before trial, you'll have something to work with. And finally, in preparing your closing statement, practice. Take the time to practice your closing statement 5 or 6 times prior to actually giving it. And do it in front of non-lawyers. Take their critiques, incorporate them into your closing argument so that you can create a better closing argument. And by doing that, you'll become more familiar with what you want to say, hopefully without notes. You'll be able to establish a better rapport by looking directly into the eyes of the jury. So let's talk a little bit about that. How to best present your closing argument. When you're talking to the jury, I want you to consider that you are talking to friends and you're helping them to decide one of the most important decisions of their lives. Speak plainly. Speak simply. Look them directly in the eye. Talk to them calmly. Talk to them as you would a friend. When you are giving your closing statement, move around. Don't stand at the podium. Don't read your closing statement. Don't get too close to the jury, though, because especially if you're a bigger person, you don't want to encroach on that jury and make them uncomfortable. So 6 feet or so would probably be a good area to give to the jury. If you can, as I said, and you've become prepared enough, knowledgeable enough, familiar enough with the material that you want to give, you can use a 1 or 2 page typed outline that you'll be able to glance down at and remember exactly what you want to say. And to that end, consider using visual aids as much as possible. According to a study by 3M with the University of Minnesota, use of good visual aids increases your persuasiveness by 43%. Today's jurors, remember, today's jurors, most of them have very short attention spans. They're going to get their information from video clips, from sound bites. They're going to watch shows like Law and Order, where closing statements are given in 5 minutes. And there is a percentage of them that expects the same from you. Now, obviously, you may not be able to give a closing statement in 5 minutes, but some of the largest verdicts in this country have been taken with a closing statement of less than 30 minutes. Simplify your case. Synthesize your case to the most important points. And we're going to talk a little bit about exactly what to say in that closing statement in just a little bit. Use of video evidence, of visual aids, can be extremely powerful. One of the most powerful uses that I've seen of video is taking actual clips from the trial itself and playing to bolster your case or undermine the defense. If you can actually take little snippets of the witness's testimony, you can do extreme damage to the opposing attorney. Another thing to consider is using video evidence for analogies. We had a case one time that was absolutely devastating to the defense. It was a case involving a forklift. Our client was run over by a 14,000-pound rough terrain forklift, and the defense contended that our client was stupid enough to walk between the wheels of a moving forklift, a forklift that was going, according to the defense, 1 mile per hour. And instead of arguing in great detail how stupid this is for them to contend, we played a clip from Austin Powers. Let me show you that clip now, and you'll see what I mean.
They're coming!
Hang on, I'm gonna floor it! Watch out! Move! Move! Move!
Careful, Austin! Watch out!
Watch out!
Watch out!
Oh. Let's go! Come on, let's go!
As you can see, after we watched that video, the jury was laughing. They saw exactly how the defense argument was ridiculous. Another thing to consider in using visual aids in your closing statement is to take a picture of the witnesses as they testify. If you've got a long case, a case with many witnesses, jurors can forget exactly who said what. By taking pictures of those witnesses when they're on the stand, you can refresh the recollection of those jurors. So, what should you say in your closing statement? The first thing I would recommend, and this is contrary to what some trial technique books will tell you, is to thank your jury. And I want you to put yourself in the shoes of your jury. Your jury is taking time out of its busy life to sit and decide a case that in large part is likely boring. They've been forced to wait in a jury room while you and your colleagues argue over points of law, and they may be bored. So take the time to express your sincere gratitude for their time and listening to your case and paying close attention. Oftentimes, I'll quote Abraham Lincoln, who said, "The highest calling a citizen can do is to serve on a jury." So, when you're giving your closing statement, re-emphasize your theme. Start strong. Don't forget about what the defense said. Don't minimize. Try not to ignore your weak parts of your case. You need to deal with them, because if you do not deal with them, you can be sure the opposing attorney will not. Argue the jury instructions. Take 3, 4, 5 of the most important jury instructions in your case and explain to the jury how they apply. Explain to the jury that if they find certain facts, that according to these instructions, they must rule a particular way. Show the jury how to complete the verdict form. Too often we've heard of juries that come out and congratulate one side after they've lost because the verdict form was not filled out appropriately. Explain the elements of the case. Show the jury what the elements are and that you have met your burden of proof or that one of the elements has not been met. Specifically ask for money if you are asking for money. Write out exactly what you are looking for in the way of an amount so that there's no dispute when it comes back to the jury room. And finally, if you're the plaintiff, you will have an opportunity to give the final word, the rebuttal argument, after the defense has given their final statement. Use it. This is the time you may want to consider becoming a little more emotional, getting away from that logical, no-nonsense, common sense approach, especially if the defense has made outrageous or ludicrous statements. Call them on it. A few do's and don'ts. Don't lose your credibility. Don't overreach. Don't make unreasonable inferences from the evidence. Your credibility is on trial just as much as your client's. Don't forget it. Use calm, logical arguments. Talk plain, as I've heard people say. And finally, one other thing. Objections. Try not to object if you can. If you need to object to protect your record, do so, but go to a sidebar and argue your objection. Finally, trials can often be arduous. You can become very tired. But try to maintain your energy and your passion, because if you don't believe in your case, the jury won't either. Thank you very much for watching this video. Your hard work is appreciated. By taking the time to build your skills, you're going to become a better advocate for your client and hopefully win your next trial. Thank you.